Okay, we're rolling.
Okay. So Roxanne, can you give me permission to share? Because when we get to the budget presentation, I'm going to share my screen.
Yeah. Oh, actually, you can share anyway, but I'll make you co-host too.
Okay.
Anyone can share their screen.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
So good evening, everyone. This is Councilor Bill Psalms. I'm calling this regular meeting of the Ledyard Town Council Finance meeting to order. Present are myself, Councilor Ingalls, Councilor Malone, as well as Councilor McGrattan, Mayor Allen, and Roxanne Marr, Administrative Assistant to the Town Council. And welcome, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening. So I will ask for citizens' comments. I don't see anyone. Jumping back and forth on my little tiny screen here.
Did you do a roll call, Bill?
Yeah, I just did.
You did.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
It's okay.
Got it.
It's always good to check on me. I never know what I'm doing. Okay, can you guys see the budget presentation?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So I'm just looking for comments, feedback, suggestions, corrections, you name it. So it's pretty simple this year. It's basically the same presentation as last year with new projects and different numbers. So we've got the budget total, the general government, and showing the mayor reduced, how much the amount he reduced by, the amount the council reduced, total reduction, the Board of Ed budget, no changes by the Board of Ed or the Town Council. Total increase in expenses is 0.27%. And the proposed mill rate is 33.72, and that's a 1.25 mil decrease. Now I'll just keep going. You guys shout out if you see anything that needs attention. Capital is interesting this year. We're investing a lot more in capital. However, the change in the budget for the taxpayer in terms of tax levy is $43,000 more than the year before. And I'm saying that because of former Mayor Rodolico's request that we consider reducing the capital, which we would really like to do if we find out that we can get some more money from and use some money from the state or the federal government for bridges and other things. On the left, I've got road restoration, same as last year. And I'm noting that our road ratings increased very slightly with this level of funding, so it seems prudent to keep that the same. And then we've got the Lantern Hill Road Bridge repair and the replacement cost at $800,000, and then 2 roofs and solar for the schools in Gales Ferry. And that's that page. Projects that, oh, Ian's here, just noticed. So projects that are on this year, the multi-use field project is complete. Changes to the town green, new electrical wiring, parking for the farmer's market, upgrades to the Morgan barn for the food pantry, and nearly everything has been completed by Public Works. Also the multimodal trail from the high school to Ledyard Center. The sewer, the engineering study on that is complete. The sewer line, Ledyard Center to wastewater treatment is also a study at this point, and that's underway. The WPCA selected Weston and Sampson, and the 2 roof replacement projects. Then some pictures. Here's the track and field, looks beautiful. The Holdridge Pavilion, the VOAG barn, and you can see the newly paved area using milling, which is impervious or is pervious so that rain can soak through it instead of running off. Aerial view of the same. Am I going too fast?
No.
Okay. Another aerial view. And then the overall concept.
Sorry, Bill, can you go back to that photo?
Sure.
Is it just that the milling, is this the milling in process? Like what's that? It looks like a dirt patch.
It's still being done there, right, Fred?
Okay, that makes sense.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is
it was
last
heading
summer.
back to that tree line to the left. They were only about halfway through at that point.
Yeah, okay. Thanks.
Sure.
And then this you may want to look at a little more slowly. This is the whole plan. So Ledyard Center is out, or Route 117 is out here. This is the line, the border with Ledyard Center School. This is the current town green with some proposed plantings and a stage, which we would love to see. There's the Holdridge Pavilion and the parking area. And then a nice little park down. I'm sorry, this is the Holdridge Pavilion. This is the VOAG barn. And then a nice little park here once the trailers and everything else that the that the Ledyard Fair has stored there are removed. That'll be nice. So I think it's going to look nice.
Is there already, is that, sorry, the parking, does that represent the actual number of parking spots?
That's pretty approximate. I think well, yeah, it says 175 spaces. That is correct. Yep.
Look at that. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, what they still have to do as part of the STEEP grant is the end caps of each parking row. So the 4 rows will each have a heavy duty pressure treated end at each one to kind of demarcate that line. And then you've got down the center of each of those rows, you've got multiple towers for lights.
Nice.
Oh, I see that. Okay. Gosh, this is going to be so great.
Yeah. And then up here, this is the schoolhouse, and then benches with a new flagpole, and over here a holiday tree.
Yep, which is already in place.
Mm-hmm.
I did not notice that. Thanks for sharing, Fred.
It's a permanent planting?
Wow.
It is. What we decided was we would have because we would usually cut a tree every year and then put it up, and sometimes it looks like a Charlie Brown tree and stuff.
Yep.
So we decided we would go with a live tree, and we figured we would keep trimming it and whatnot and see if we can get, say, 20 years out of it before cutting it down and replacing it.
All right.
Love that. I planted another one right over here where my cursor is, Fred. Yep. I went and dug it up in Basra and planted it here and put lights on it. So hopefully that grows too. That's in memory of Carl Jekyll.
Oh, that's
nice.
Yeah. Okay. So the mill rate decrease is due to the revaluation. Is that every 5 years, Fred?
That is accurate.
Okay. Whoops. I'll fix it later. So it decreases, but people need to know that property values and the grand list increased. And despite a modest increase in expenditures in our budget, we also saw a decrease in non-tax revenue. Therefore, the grand list increase is going to make up for that shortfall. So many people will see actual tax increases as a combined result, both the reval and the slight increase in expenditures and the decrease in non-tax revenue. So good news on the mill rate decrease, but actually it kind of shades the actual situation.
So remind me what was encompassed in the revenue decrease?
A big one was the fact that we did not take money, or last year we took money out, and this year we did not take money out of the undesignated fund. And we used that to pay for the high school track and field. So that's part of it. There's also a decrease in healthcare revenue. And then there's just a whole list of things. Some revenues went up, some went down, but across the board, revenue went down if you take out the tax revenue. Yeah. So it's hard to see. You can't really point your finger at any one thing and say, oh my God, look at that. It's just so for example, total fees collected went down. Yeah.
And there's a bunch of, you're right, Bill, there's a bunch of smaller line items, but when you look through the pages of them, collectively, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Help me understand the healthcare revenue.
Hard
is that the
for
visiting
me
nurses?
to explain. No. This is, so the town employees pay approximately 20% of the cost of their own healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
So our healthcare costs are offset by the revenue that they pay. And there also was an accounting change. I think Ian is on here now. I hope he'll be able to help me explain this, but
I am here, but Marcia was very much more involved with this than I
yeah,
am.
she was. Okay. All right.
So, but I'm guessing I'm sorry, my wife just got home. My daughter's
That's
here.
right.
My dog's going crazy.
Well, let me take a stab at it, Ian. Remember that we went from self-insured to the town using the state's health insurance plan.
Right.
When we did that, we no longer had to set aside money to pay our own insurance claims. So we were self-insured,
Mm-hmm.
and when we had a claim, we paid it.
Mm-hmm.
So we had this big fund that we had set aside, and we've been whittling that fund down because we no longer need it. Well, we've finished whittling it down. We spent the last of it last year. So when I say whittling down, we had money set in a fund that we could use to cover expenses. Now we don't.
Okay.
Right.
It throws me that that's actually called revenue.
Yeah, it's on the revenue side.
The auditors would call it a transfer in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it's in the revenue side, but it was really just a transfer of money from one fund, from our old self-insured fund into the general fund to offset.
Yeah.
Thank you. That clears it up for me.
It's revenue because it's not an expense.
So yeah, in very general terms, I get it now. Yeah. I get it.
Yep.
Yeah, and you're right, Bill. One of the auditors wanted us to book. I can't remember what the exact one was, but they required us to change the way we booked a certain stream of funds. Right. And the impact was pretty substantial on how things looked, even though it's just an accounting maneuver.
Yep.
Fred, are you talking about the donations fund? The bane of my existence?
I don't think it was the donations fund. I have to look back on the audit because they identified it in the final statement, but we'll have to look back on that. But it was something that they specifically, John said, you got to change how you're doing this. And so Marcia said, okay, we will. We didn't really agree with it, but we did. And it had an interesting swing in how the numbers looked.
Oh, if it happened this year, it's not the donations fund.
No, it wasn't. I don't think it was donations.
Okay, so that's the last one, and then we'll get all those questions that Andra just asked.
Yep. I think on your first slide, Bill, it shows FY 2021. There you go.
Thank you.
Oh,
yeah, it does.
Good catch.
It is a good catch.
Thought I fixed that. This is why.
That would be somebody's big aha right at the start.
Right.
Yeah, you guys don't know what you're doing. Look at that.
That wrong?
What
else is wrong in here?
Talking about last year's budget still.
I'd be asking the same question myself. If you got that wrong, what else did you get wrong? All right. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Okay, so that was informational items. Next item is review and approval of the minutes.
I move to approve the regular meeting minutes of April 7th, 2021.
Is there a second? Thank you, Tom. Any comments, changes, corrections?
None.
Okay, all in favor, please say yes.
Yes. Councilor Ingalls.
Heard you, Tom. Councilor Solms votes yes. The minutes pass. Give me one moment. And while I'm doing this, Ian, if you have anything to report, feel free.
Nothing at the moment.
Okay. Okay, we have no old business. And I should mention that the agenda is slightly different. The version I'm looking at has some new add-ons at the end. The version you're looking at, if you're looking at the web version, may not show them, and some versions do. So at the end, we have a couple of items regarding the Nathan Lester House. So if you don't see them, just didn't want you to be surprised. It's basically a transfer on the Nathan Lester House.
It's here, Bill.
It is. Okay, good.
Yeah, it's
great.
here as item 8.
Right. Okay. So let's move on to new business. Is there any thing else we need to do to change the agenda under new business?
No.
Thank you. So let's handle the first motion.
I make a motion to adopt a proposed certified resolution, State of Connecticut Department of Economic and Community Development Grant, structural survey for the historic up-down Sawmill as contained in the draft dated April 14th, 2021.
Councilman Malone seconds.
Thank you, Tom. So the Sawmill needs some work, and in conversations between the Historic District Commission and the state has offered to pay for a structural survey because it's a historic building. I don't think it's on the historic register yet, but this would help us get there and would help us potentially acquire funds through grants to do some additional work on the Sawmill. So there is a cost for the survey. It is covered by the state and will cost the town nothing. And Fred, if you have anything to add that I missed, please feel free to share.
No, this is so some of their larger projects that are coming up will require some pretty substantial capital, and they recognize that ahead of time right now. So they have the ability to apply for grants, and they haven't. And this will be a great opportunity to secure some funds for that. So yeah, I think this is a great first step.
Is this the Trust for Historic Preservation, Fred? Is that where it's coming from?
Yeah, this is exactly right.
Yeah, okay. So the way they work, they will give you money, but before they give you money, you have to do a survey, which makes sense because they don't want to just hand out money to anybody with an old building. So they want to make sure the building is structurally sound, it's worth investing in and preserving. And to do that, you have to get a professional to survey the building, and they pay for that. So it seems odd, but it also makes sense. And that's exactly what we're doing here. So questions?
None. I think it's a good idea. Let's see what we're working with here.
Okay. The work that they're proposing to do, the penstock, which is the area that holds water before it goes through the mill, needs to be rebuilt. They want to do it in a more historic way than was last done, which is failing. And there are also some structural foundation repairs that have to be made as well, just to keep the building vertical. So, ready to vote?
Yes.
Yes.
All in favor, please say aye.
Councilor Ingalls votes aye.
Councilor Song. Sorry,
Aye.
Tom, go ahead.
Councilman Malone votes aye.
Thank you, Tom. And Councilor Solms votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Next item, please.
I make a motion to appropriate CIRMA Insurance Reimbursement in the amount of $6,393 to capital account 210-20101-57510 police vehicle capital for a total police vehicle.
Councilor Ingalls seconds.
Thank you. So we had an accident a while back. I don't recall the details, Fred. And this was
on Gear Hill. It was during a Friday afternoon snowstorm. Officer McSwain was parked at an accident. A car came careening down Gear Hill and right into him and smashed the back of his car and drove him into the car that he was sitting behind from the accident. So it got smashed in the front and the back.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do we get any reimbursement from the, or was this considered no fault?
This is, so what we do is we subrogate to, so CIRMA pays out and then we subrogate to CIRMA, so they go after the insured party that hit Officer McSwain. So we don't get anything more out of it. It just so happened that this was the very cruiser that we bought back from CIRMA that was crashed previously, that we wanted to keep because it didn't have a lot of miles. So we bought it, but it was already branded as a salvaged vehicle.
Oh.
So as luck would have it, out of our 11 or 12 cruisers, this happened to be the one that got hit and totaled, which is why we're only getting like $7,000 instead of $10,000.
Got it. Thank you. Okay, other questions?
No.
Ready to vote?
Yes, I am.
All in favor, please say aye.
Counselor Ingalls votes aye.
Counselor Malone votes aye.
Counselor Soms votes aye, and the motion passes. Thank you very much. Next item, please. Oh, I'm sorry. So this is a discussion item, and I don't think we have any new information on capital. We're just holding this so that we can adjust capital in the event that we get some new information about what we can spend ARA money or any other money coming from the federal government.
We are told by OPM that guidance will be coming.
Good.
So we are waiting for guidance from them, and as soon as we have that, we can share that up, and then decision making will be a little easier.
We will wait for that guidance. Thank you. Hopefully it's good guidance. Okay, next item, please.
That's also a discussion and possible action.
Oh, so it is. Yeah, thank you, Tom. Okay, so this is a church that bought the property, which was once a church on Colonel Ledyard Highway, south of Lambtown and about across from Haley Road. And they bought it apparently from a tax-paying organization. And so they got a tax bill. They only owned it for 3 months of the year that they were charged. And they would like to be relieved of that tax bill because they are a church and tax exempt. And this is very similar, like the church in Gales Ferry that Mike France and John Lawrence brought to us a few years ago.
Yeah, I'm pretty familiar with the story. I know the owner who was the holdings company who bought it. So a previous church sold it, bought by a holdings, and then sold to another church. So I know the person who owned it in the interim. And yeah, it was.
I'm just curious, Andra, am I correct in saying that that was a commercial entity?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I think he might have bought the house next door to it too. I don't remember. Did he split the house off from that?
Yeah, you know, that's right. And I don't know what the arrangement was there, but yes, the house was split. I think there might have been a shared well or something weird going on.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I probably sold off the house and then sold the church back to another church, which is what this is now. Yep.
Right.
So do you know anything? So I'm assuming that's the house to the north, Andra and Fred?
It is. It was the brown, like a cottage style house.
Okay.
Yep.
And did the property down to the pond go with that house, or is that another parcel?
That's another parcel.
That's another. Okay.
Yeah, the house was on a very small lot, as I recall, which might have been the reason why they initially had a shared well.
Yeah.
The well was shared with the church because I believe that brown house was the pastor's residence.
Like a parsonage of
right.
Okay.
Yep.
But as far as the land, you know, the church had some land behind it. At some point, they allowed it to be logged.
Right.
I mean, they had it cleared.
That's why I'm asking. They had it cleared. Some group was doing some recreational stuff, I assume, for the kids in the church, and the property is now what I would consider to be blighted. I mean, there are old blue tarps, lots and lots of rotting plastic, big chunks of styrofoam floats all throughout the woods. I think even off the property on adjoining properties. It's really a mess, which is why I was asking. But that's nothing to do with this motion or these folks. So
yeah, I'll pull up the map in the meantime just to see. As I recall, the church property went back. So behind the church, they had a detached shed in the back right corner, and I think it did go down the hill a ways.
Yeah,
but I'll confirm that.
Okay, I was looking at it this morning and saw it was not church property, but at least the property I'm talking about. So, so what's our next step? Do we need to have a legislative file built on this, or do we just write a motion right now and move to absolve them of the property tax?
I think you can probably do the latter. I think we just need to understand that the Iglesia Fuente de la Salvación Misionera Incorporated is in fact a nonprofit.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
As long as you can confirm that, I don't think it's, I think you can use your previous case history with Bishop Seabury to move that ahead to the council.
Yeah. I think I'd like the tax collector to help us with the motion too, because I know that we are very tightly constrained on what we can and cannot do with relieving tax obligations. So if Kathy could help us with that, I think it would be in all of our best interest.
Yeah, that's
so
a good.
Yeah, go ahead, Andrea.
Just saying that's a good point.
Okay, so we'll leave this on the agenda for action next time and hopefully bring it forward to the council.
In the meantime, sorry, go ahead, Tom.
Can we just make sure we have a consistent spelling in the files? One says Iglesia, the other one says Iglesia. So it's a minor thing. However, if we're talking legal documents, tax documents, I think we should be with all of our legislative files.
Yep, agree. Good point. Thank you.
Also, is it prudent to reach out to them and let them know that we hear them and we're working it out?
Good call.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a bad idea at all, just to let them know that this is on the radar and it is being worked on, so they know.
Yeah.
Yeah, good idea. Okay, so Roxanne, will that happen through the action? No, we don't have an action file. So how do we do that? How do we let them know? Back through Kathy, I guess. The tax collector.
Well, this letter came to
it was addressed to the council chair, wasn't it?
The town council. So, I mean, you could write a letter from the finance committee saying that it's been referred to you and the finance committee is looking further into the,
Okay, let's do that. Thank you. Okay. I can get this Zoom session out of the way and find out where I was.
Just so you know, I'm not finding that church on the Secretary of State's website. So that's something we will have to look at is,
okay.
I can't find their legal entity as existing right now.
And it is possible that they're a nonprofit. So this is a naughty situation. You can be a church and you can have an IRS tax exemption number as a 501c3 and still not be or be a nonprofit organization. So it may be hard to determine this.
I wonder if you'd have to file reports with the state, and Roxanne has information too.
Yeah, I don't think you do. I think because I think we just have to make sure it's a church.
Okay.
don't know how I mean, anybody can say they're a church. How do you prove you're a church?
Okay, attached to the for tonight, I attached an email from Tax Assessor Adriana Headwell. She said that she has confirmed that it is a nonprofit, and also attached is the assessor's card for both the church and the former owner, who was the NW Holdings.
NW, yeah, yep.
So the new tax bill for the church shows that it's a nonprofit, and it's showing that there's no taxes owed. The situation, as I understand it, is that because the tax assessment year was from October of 2018 to July of 2019, and the church didn't purchase the property until, I think it says July the 15th, that those taxes that were owed should have been paid at the closing by the former owner. But somewhere along the way, that did not happen.
Right.
And so what happened was, when the church received the bill for that property, they went ahead and paid them. So they paid the first installment, but there's still a second installment due, from my understanding, that should be being paid from the other owner. But this is not my area, so Adriana and Kathy can explain it better. But the property now is listed as a nonprofit in the tax assessor's card.
Okay, good. So the only thing we need to do then is have the tax collector write a motion for us. Or Roxanne, do you, I mean, how should we, I want to make sure the motion's right.
Yeah, I think we probably need to look a little bit further into this. Maybe we could invite Adriana and Kathy to the next meeting to give us more information.
Okay. And maybe we could also go back and get the motion from
Bishop
Seabury.
Yeah.
What we did with Bishop Seabury was, according to state statute, we had to adopt a resolution, and then we adopted an ordinance making it a nonprofit or a tax exempt. But it's already, this has already occurred. It is now
okay.
that
the
problem with the money that the church already spent. They, I think, would like to get it back.
Yep.
They would like to be reimbursed for what they paid, which it was not theirs to owe.
Yeah.
It's a little more complicated, I think. So
yeah.
Mary's raising.
Yeah, go ahead,
I
Mary.
have a question. Is the church considered a nonprofit? Now, if this building or church is a nonprofit, how do we determine whether it's a church, or does it really matter?
Well, Roxanne was just telling us that they already we have a letter from the tax assessor saying she's confirmed that they are a nonprofit.
Right, but how does this relate to the church, a church?
It probably doesn't matter. If they're a nonprofit, they would likely be tax exempt.
Right.
Okay, so we don't even need to use the word church.
Right, the fact that they're a church may not even matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, we're going to write a letter to the church and say it's been referred to us, we're working on it, and we're going to ask Kathy Demetrius to help us with a motion. Yep. And we'll invite her and the tax assessor to the next meeting.
Okay.
So we can fully understand. Okay, good. Thank you. Okay. And then,
let me just share for a second so you can see Adriana's email. Here it is.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, so she attached a revised draft ordinance?
I think No, I think, well, it's the next, there's another attachment. I have to go back to the site.
Yeah, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, she just attached the, I think the existing ordinance, I think, as an example. Let me go back.
I'm assuming we're going to go after the former owner for the taxes that were not paid. Can we do that?
I think I would say that we can. And I think that if what I just read with Adriana's email, which was the closing attorney erred on the closing, I think there's probably a liability issue there too from that closing attorney. You know, that it sounds like he acknowledged that it should have been paid, but he was apathetic about, oh well, type of thing. I think it's certainly worth seeking resolution for that, either from the owner that should have paid, or probably more so from the attorney that might have botched that part of the closing. Right.
So here's a question. Is it up to us to try to secure that reimbursement on behalf of the church, or is it up to the church to deal with the previous owner and that attorney to get reimbursement from them?
Good question. Yeah, because they paid it, right?
Well, right. And since they've paid, you're right. They could very easily go back on the attorney that represented, I guess. So I guess it's two things. They had an attorney that represented them in the purchase, who should have recognized that taxes were due and not paid. So their attorney might not have done a perfect job. And at the same time, the seller's attorney did not recognize that in the closing statement either, to say, oh, this is an outstanding bill, this needs to be paid. Typically, that's what they would do.
And the other thing is, now that this has happened twice, is there a mechanism in a property transfer for the town to be notified that a property is being transferred into the hands of a 501c3? So we're aware that it's now going to be a tax exempt property. Because unless somebody notifies us, we really have no way of knowing. We just know that the property transferred, right?
Right.
So
at the same time, I would think that you know, if taxes were due and outstanding like we see here, what I guess I don't understand is, how would an attorney close on that transaction? Because typically they would do a title search, they would check with the tax collector before they gave the buyer the green light to close. And if they saw something like this, they would say, well, there's $7,047.37 that needs to be paid. So I'm kind of surprised that happened.
So here's a weird thing, and you would know far more about this because you've been you're in real estate. But so is the fact that it came from another church and was sold to a commercial entity, does that come into play?
So I guess it would, from the point that it came from a church, so it was non-taxable, then it became taxable. So I guess at the time that Mr. Whipple owned it, what we don't know is how long did he own it to be really even on the tax rolls. So let's say, as an example, he owns it for 2.5 months. Does he receive a prorated bill for 2.5 months? And I don't know the answer to that, but I think that's definitely something to ask.
Yeah, so I have another question. What if two people, one a person owns a property, a piece of land or a house, and it's taxable, and they sell it to the new owner, and the new owner somehow agrees to pay the taxes for the whole year? How do we know that didn't happen? And worse, how do we keep the former owner from claiming, yeah, that was part of the deal, they're supposed to pay the whole year of taxes?
Because that would be a rider on the contract. And
would
the
it?
contract.
Okay.
Yeah, so, all right, let me just take a quick scan of this that Rox is sharing too.
You know, you would think in a holding company that does frequent amount of property transfers, even if they're only for, as Fred is alluding to, you know, 60, 90, 120 days, a lot of times they're just holding it until the next buyer shows up, or they're holding it until the buyer gets their money
Yeah, he's a flipper.
Yeah, exactly. And or just a place to kind of a way station. But they have to, I mean, I would think any attorney worth their salt would do the due diligence to recognize there's a portion of tax here due. And Fred's right, was remiss in their duties.
Mm-hmm. I think so too. And it looks like, so it looks like in this case, the attorney that's bringing this forward is not the attorney that represented the church in the closing. They're just now saying, we think the church is due this money back and it should be stricken from the tax rolls. So we can look at the land records to see who the attorney was that represented the seller in the closing, to figure out, you know, if somebody needs to be held liable for it, it's probably, that person is probably also on the land records right now.
Yeah.
So this one's saying they represent the co-founders of the church, but then it goes on to say, my client was not represented by me during her closing of the property. Mm-hmm. And they just say it was other counsel, didn't say who, but we could figure that out. But yeah, I think it's you know, the both attorneys erred on this one, because it should have been picked up that taxes were due and you don't close until that's paid, or those funds, those proceeds are set aside out of the closing funds to pay that bill.
Right.
And that didn't happen.
Yeah, this is errors here.
Yeah. Roxanne, at the bottom of this letter, who is the attorney that signed this letter? Erica Rodriguez, don't know her. Okay. So I will look tomorrow in the land records to see if we can find out who was representing either both the buyer and the seller in the transaction when that took place.
So I'm looking for where we saw that I think we know who that was, because remember, I think Adriana said he seemed apathetic. Was she speaking to that?
You want me to bring it back up?
This should have been handled by the closing attorney, who I also spoke with. He seemed apathetic about the situation at best.
So Adriana knows at least one of those two parties right now, based on her having a conversation with them.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Yep. And I don't see a name of a counselor in there, but yeah, I will ask Adriana.
Okay.
But I think the church, you know, is due a reimbursement, and that's going to wind up on our table. Only because, you know, they're going to go to, if push comes to shove, and like you said, what is it, 7,700, Fred?
Yeah, it looks like 7,000 was the outstanding bill, and then there's a $3,500 overpayment.
Right. Yeah. So let's call it $7,000. You know, they're going to come after us, not come after, but, you know, their case is going to be, well, you know, it's not on us, it's on you, because you didn't tell us, we didn't know any tax.
Well, it was on their attorney.
Yeah.
It wasn't on, it's not like we wronged them. Their attorney wronged them. So, yeah, so I'm still hanging out on my question on what is it our responsibility to issue the reimbursement and then go after the holdings, or let them duke it out with their attorneys who both underrepresented them? It would seem. Let me not be so hasty.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you know, the taxes, you can find those out just by going online. So you, as an attorney, you can go right on to Ledger's website and determine what taxes, if any, are due on any property in town. You don't even have to set foot in town hall. But as part of the title search, I would think that that attorney, in conducting the title search, would go to check on that to find out. And I have to wonder if that even happened.
No, to me, it sounds like a total lack of due diligence on the attorney's part.
I agree.
So we could, I think, consider this an overpayment by the church and just refund their money. And then our tax collector could go after the former owner and say, these were your taxes, you didn't pay them. Couldn't we?
I think that would be harder because we don't have the lien rights at that point. You know, we have lien rights right now with property. I think we're probably better off as a town of saying, you know, we understand that you are looking for a refund. However, that refund needs to come by way of the seller of that property that appears to have owed a certain amount of taxes that had gone unpaid at the time that you purchased.
Got it. Okay. So as a lien holder, that means the property can't change hands until the taxes are paid, correct?
That's what should have happened, is that statutorily there is a lien on every property for real estate taxes. And it doesn't have to be recorded on the land records. They just have to go to the tax office and say, are there any taxes currently due or past due on property X? And as soon as they knew that, they could have, you know, let the seller know, let the buyer know, or account for it in the closing statement to say this needs to be paid. And it seems like they might not have done either of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, Fred, my last question here is, did they have any taxes in arrears before the closing? I mean, I understand taxes that are due, which are due up to a point where when you do the closing, but have anything in arrears that we should have as a town, I'm only playing devil's advocate here, put a lien on it.
Right. Yeah, and I can look right now to see what's out there. Yeah, and that's a good question. Since it was purchased, it looked like it was purchased in 2019. So we have to look and see what was outstanding at that time. Let's see. Well, I will. I'll look right now and let you know. What was it? Was it NCW Holdings?
Yes.
LLC.
Yeah, so I do see it in here. I'm in the tax records right now, and it comes up as the current taxes. This was for year 2018, $7,047.73, and there was a lien placed on the property because there's a lien fee of $24 on here as well. So it kind of looks like we did what we were supposed to, and whoever did the title search didn't do what they were supposed to. Otherwise, they probably would have picked up on that lien.
How could they close a property with a lien on it?
Easy. They just didn't do the title search.
That's just, I never heard of it.
Yeah, that's bad work right there. That's all that is.
So that would have been up to both attorneys involved, yes?
I would agree. Yep, the seller's attorney should have known. The buyer's attorney either would have done the title search themselves or would have hired a title searcher, but either way, they should have known too. Yep, and I found the tax bill almost instantly, and that's just online. I didn't even have to set foot in the tax collector's office. So, and that $7,047.73 is exactly what is there, and you can see the lien dollars of $24 right there.
Yeah. So here's what I think. Yeah. This was not our mistake. The mistake lies with these two attorneys, and I'm a fan of letting people work things out. Not I want the church to get its money back as quickly as possible. But
yeah, we're kind of,
I want the
party to it.
Right. I want the culpability to lie with the correct parties. Otherwise, I'm going to use the word paternalistic, but that's not really what I'm going for. I feel like we're going to make it more complicated by trying to take responsibility for something that wasn't our culpability. Does that make sense?
I think you're right, Andrea. Yeah.
All right, so I'll dig into this tomorrow some more with looking at who's involved, and then just say, you know, to the church, we can reach out to the church and say, you know, here's your closing attorney, here's the seller's closing attorney. We apologize, but this is we are not the aggrieved party. You are the aggrieved party with the seller, and as such, you need to either take legal action against them. Hopefully not. Hopefully it's just a, hey, this was done incorrectly at closing, and we need to make it right now.
So to be clear, we can still do the ordinance because they need that so that we don't cause them to pay taxes going. And we do need to do that ordinance, correct?
Right. Yeah. So we would still need to do that. That would remove it from the tax rolls going forward until it is no longer a 501c3 or whatever their nonprofit status is. And that doesn't have any effect on what is still sitting in the background.
Right.
So we can let them know in the letter that we're going to be taking that action.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay. Thank you all. Good discussion.
Whew.
Yeah. Thought that was going to be easy.
Yeah. Get your attorneys right here, folks. That's really something.
Okay. Last item.
Kind of.
No, second to last item. Sorry.
Where are we?
So I'll do, Andra, only because I don't have the updated agenda.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I'll make the motion to approve 2 tax refunds in the combined total of $7,138.08 each, exceeding $2,400 in accordance with the tax collector department procedures.
Second.
Thank you. So both of these are cases of duplicate payments and vetted by the tax collector. We just need to sign off on them. So any questions, discussion?
No.
All in favor, please say, Tom, go ahead.
Was this due to a conveyance of property and sometimes they double pay, or?
I think both double paid. I'm not sure the reason. I have to go back and look at the
Yeah, I feel like one of them paid the full year and they only needed to pay half the year. So they kind of wanted their money back in their hands for the second half of the year until it was due.
No, so would I.
It was just a double pay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Counselor Ingalls votes aye.
Counselor Malone votes aye.
Counselor Soms votes aye. The motion passes. Thank you very much. Next item, please.
So I have item 6 as another discussion and possible action on tax refunds.
That's just a general item in case something comes up after the agenda's been posted. So
please
that's just on all the.
All right, then item 7 is any other new business. And then so item 8 is I make a motion to approve a transfer of, well, there's no number here. I don't have a dollar amount.
Hey, Fred, if you're at the town hall, Vin dropped off the quote for this to me, and it's sitting at on my desk.
Yeah, I'm. Oh, you can't even see it. I'm holding up the pages, but they're invisible right now. My background. I have those, Ian. So he brought them in to me too, and the reason why the number is kind of open right now is because this is partly discussion, and then we could probably pencil in a number as part of the discussion. So do you want to start with the discussion, because this came up late yesterday?
Yeah, let's describe the situation, then we can come up with a number.
So as you know, we have a lead paint issue at the Nathan Lester House in the caretaker's quarters. In my absence last week, you approved, and I thank you for the lead abatement in the caretaker's residence. However, that is but one piece of this whole thing. So the other pieces of it, the reason why we were able to get the work done for the sub $15,000 is because the floors of the bedrooms and the living room are all painted with lead paint. So as part of that, to avoid abating all that lead paint, I asked Ledgelight, are we okay if we pad it and do wall-to-wall carpet? And they said, absolutely, you don't have to deal with the lead paint. You can cover it with carpet, and then that aspect is solved. So that was good because that probably saved us another $20,000. But with that comes carpeting costs, of course. So Vin Gadino came in yesterday afternoon about 3 p.m. He provided 2 estimates for carpeting, one from BT Carpet and Tile over in Uncasville, which was $3,528.79, and an additional one from Home Depot. And, you know, we told them we're looking at just doing, you know, a Berber and nothing special. And that was $2,995.98. The last, we hope, the last 2 pieces of this puzzle are we need to provide housing, temporary housing for the occupants. And because there is 5.5 of them, and I say 5.5 because one of the occupants has a daughter that spends time with them and time with the divorced other parent. So sometimes there's 5 people there, sometimes there's 6 people there. So a lot of people. The other thing that complicates this a little bit is that they have rabbits, they have chickens, and apparently they now have goats. So we couldn't put them in a hotel room exactly with 6 people, rabbits, chickens, and goats. So the idea was that we would provide them, we were trying to find an RV that we could park there, and several of the Historic District Commission members had attempted to secure a local RV, but we were unsuccessful. I tried a couple too, unsuccessful, probably because of the state of COVID right now. Everybody's using them like they are boats and everything else, and kayaks and what have you. So Vin was able to locate an 8x40 travel trailer from a company called Able Housing, which is temporary on-site mobile housing. And that cost is $3,000 for 2 months. There's a $1,000 security deposit. Go ahead. And then we still have to do a 50 amp plug connection to hook it up, and connection to water and septic. We had discussions with Public Works. The water connection is literally just hooking a garden hose to this thing and we're set. The septic line is running a septic line out and into the top of the septic tank at the Nathan Lester House, which we feel can happen. They will put the pipe in to pipe it directly into that and then cover it so it's not an open pit for disaster to happen. The last piece of this, now that we've got that out of the way and the occupants are willing to store their stuff in the barn on site, so we don't have the cost of a storage cube or whatever they call those things, like a, you know, shipping container. The last one is we need to clean, after the work has been done, we need to clean the residence, vacuum the residence so that it is ready for Ledgelight to come back in and retest for lead levels. So Vin secured an estimate from PC Restoration. That was $3,230. I don't support this. I think it is way too much money for what we need to do. I have reached out to Ledgelight to see if, can we just use a cleaning company, or does it have to be a lead certified cleaning company? And I think we're okay just using a cleaning company because that's what we were allowed to do in the first place. But again, one of the things that's happening as part of this process, so when they're doing the lead paint abatement on the windows and doors, they kind of build a clean room around each of these areas, if you will. So they mask off the areas. They work within a tent, essentially. So I don't feel like the lead paint is going to get all over the house as they're abating it from the windows and the doors. So I think that cleaning, quite honestly, can happen for far less than $3,230, probably more like $500, but that one is still an unknown. So what we're trying to accomplish right now is that we have a couple moving parts here. We've got the lead paint abatement company who is also going to do the finish painting after the abatement is done. As soon as they leave, we need to get the carpeting people in to carpet the 3 bedrooms and the floor, or in the living room, I should say. And then the last piece of that, of course, is getting the cleaning company in to clean the space and have it ready for Ledgelight to come in and retest for lead paint, at which point, assuming it passes after a week, which is about how long it takes to get the results, then our occupants can move back in and we get out of the travel trailer and it's behind us. So it's a pretty crazy whole bunch of moving parts on this one, but we really need to move ahead to get it done, and we're trying to make it happen sooner than later. So ahead of summer, I guess.
So Fred, I'm thinking we could do this with a not to exceed if we come up with an estimate or what we think they're reasonable. So I had some of the costs, but I didn't catch them all. Do you have a running total or? Yeah,
so let me start with the low quote for the carpeting, which is $29.95 and 98 cents.
Hang on.
Yep.
$29.95 and 98.
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
And then we've got the Able Housing quote, which is the travel trailer for 2 months.
Yep.
Which appears to be, it's $3,000 for the rental itself. Then there is a delivery charge, which they said is TBD based on mileage. I don't think it's going to be huge. It's coming from Groton, almost at the corner of 184 and 117, so not far. But we probably need to allow $500 for travel on that.
Yep.
I'm going to have Public Works handle the hookup of the water and sewer and hopefully the 50 amp plug as well.
Okay.
And then we have, I would like to use a $500 placeholder to have the unit cleaned post work.
Okay.
I don't agree with the 3230 number.
Yeah.
And then I would probably allow a maximum of $1,000 over that to cover incidentals and, well, maybe not even that much, maybe 500 to cover incidentals. And we were also told all the doors are going to have to be cut down after the carpet is installed so they clear the new carpet. So, and then you can tell me what
other deposit.
The security deposit is $1,000 refundable. There are no pets, so there is no pet accommodation fee, which is a fee. So I think we're clear of that one. So we will have a deposit and we will fully anticipate getting that back.
And that's $1,000, Fred?
That's $1,000. Yep.
Okay. All right, let me do some math here.
Okay.
I have it at, well, I don't know, does the deposit get included in this number or just no because it's a wash?
I think I would just put the deposit in there and then to say, we can say upon receipt of the, the security deposit being returned to the town of Ledger, we will appropriate it back to the undesignated.
Okay, so I have it at $8,495.98.
Okay.
So yeah, I had it at 8,500 as well.
Okay.
My question, Fred, is there's two questions. Do you think it takes 60 days to do this?
No. but the short-term rental, the minimum is 60 days to rent the unit. The painting company has told us they don't need more than 15 days. The carpet people, they said they'll be in and out of there in 2 days. The slight unknown really comes down to the state lab, which does the lead paint testing. And according to Katie Baldwin at Ledgelight, she said the state lab is also doing all the COVID testing and any other, pathogen type testing right now, as well as lead. So she said, if we're lucky, it's 10 days. It could be a little bit longer. And until she has that clear to reoccupy notice, we can't send them back in. So we were thinking if we gave ourselves a little bit of extra time, if the state lab is running late, then we've got a little bit of wiggle room.
Right. So we're looking 30 to 45 days, probably best case scenario.
Yes. Yeah, I agree completely.
And the other question I had, boy, did that just slip right out of my head. So one was the time. The other one was, so what's the total abatement? If we did the total abatement, right? What does that cost? You mentioned.
Yeah, we didn't even solicit a quote or a bid to do the full abatement because all the windows in the Nathan Lester house it's very highly probable that every one of them is covered in lead paint. But the museum portion, we don't have to deal with. So there's 32 windows in the house. This bid of just under 15,000 only covers 8 of the windows. So we know it would be far more, but Ledgelight said we don't have to worry about the lead paint in the museum because it's not being occupied by people. It's just the museum, which is good. And the fact that the wood floors are painted throughout means we've got lead paint everywhere in the house. I think we had a couple discussions with some lead people, and they were talking probably more like $70,000 to $80,000 to fully abate. And that does not involve putting carpet back down, which of course we wouldn't want to do in there, but it also doesn't involve repainting the interior of the areas that were abated. So it's a big ticket item. It was not budgeted for, it was not anticipated, and we can't do the complete job.
I gotcha. So is that something maybe not this year, but next year we could look at starting to SIP for?
Well, what I would rather do is start with some grant opportunities. That house is on the National Register of Historic Places. I think we have grant opportunities available for that one. I think Mary mentioned that a while ago. I think we probably start there and see if we can find some free money, kind of like the State Historic Preservation Office. There are definitely options there. So I think we need to start there. If we can secure some grant monies, maybe we can cobble together the rest out of SIP, but try at least to get grant funds. And at the same time, Tom, I would also say it's probably a good idea to put it in the capital plan, because some of the grants, they want to know that this is on your radar. So if we at least have it in the capital plan and they can see that, that's a plus too.
All right. Thanks, Rick.
Sure.
Good questions. So I've got a $8,500 not to exceed number, rounding up for this motion.
Okay, are we ready?
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
Say aye.
Ready for the motion? You're voting on making the
motion. I thought you made the motion. I'm sorry.
No, sorry, I didn't. I
Go ahead.
did. Sorry.
It says here in my notes, you made the motion. Tom seconded.
No, I stopped because I didn't have a number and that kicked off the discussion.
You're right.
All right, so I make a motion to approve a transfer of not to exceed $8,500 from account 210-90305-58915 CNR undesignated to 210-10103-54500 Historic District Building Maintenance for associated costs to the lead abatement in the caretaker's quarters at the Lester House.
Councilwoman Malone, second.
Thank you.
In addition, upon receipt of security deposit, appropriate $1,000 back to undesignated.
What she said.
And the amendment.
Malone, second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Councilor Ingalls votes aye.
Councilwoman Malone votes aye.
And Councilor Psalms votes aye. Thank you very much. The motion passes. And now I think we can do a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All righty.
Great job, everybody. Thank you again. I look forward to having that project done and behind us.
Likewise. Okay. See you in 20 minutes.